channel community. This is Tommy, and welcome to another musical adventure. And I've got a few videos that I've kind of been inspired by. I've been watching some and getting caught up and everything. Hope that you're all safe and well while in quarantine and staying healthy during these strange times. That goes without saying. But one of the videos that I saw recently that really kind of inspired me and got my head to reeling was James Griffith's The Vinyl Professor. If you don't know his channel, please check it out. It's fantastic stuff. He's always got some very insightful and great things to say. Well, he did a Gimme 10 album challenge, and he kind of linked these albums together by some of the musicians. And I think that's an easy way to probably go about doing a challenge like this. Certainly in my mind, and there's so many that connect. My mind started immediately going different places of how to connect stuff, and one was kind of obvious for me if you know my videos, but I kind of thought I would go about it in a way that would be maybe a little educational, a little different, and maybe not what you would think. So just to pick it up, but the other thing is that they kind of fire off quickly, and I kind of want to keep that same kind of pace with this. So I'm going to start. So the idea is you start with an album and you go through 10 and you come back to the album that you started with. You link it together. And so hopefully when I show you what I've picked as sort of my starting point, you can follow me along. And it may not go where you think it's going to go, but I'm going to choose The Monkey's Head. This is the soundtrack to the film that they made in 1968. It's a fantastic film. I love this movie. Not what you would think from a group like the Monkees. The soundtrack is full of great material, but specifically Head was produced by the company that did the Monkees, Bert Productions, Robert Rafelson, Bob Rafelson, and Bert Schneider, who actually came up with the Monkees TV series. Well, also involved with this project was Jack Nicholson, the actor, and Jack was around the Monkees and around these guys at the time. His career was just beginning. And so I believe Jack Nicholson actually assembled the soundtrack. And the soundtrack is not only the songs from the movie, but a hodgepodge of different clips and sounds. Now, you can go a lot of different places with Head. And so follow me along here. The soundtrack to the motion picture Head, 1968, released by the Monkees. And that brought me to, obviously I mentioned Bob Rafelson, the film director, who worked with Jack Nicholson. Easy Rider, the film Easy Rider with Peter Fonda. And that brought me to the Byrds. And there's so many places you can go from the Byrds. But follow along with me. This is the album, The Ballad of Easy Rider, featuring, this isn't the soundtrack to the film, featuring some nifty liner notes by none other than the Easy Rider himself, Peter Fonda. But the title track, The Ballad of Easy Rider, this is not the soundtrack to the movie. This is a Byrds album, Easy Rider. And of course, the title track, The Ballad of Easy Rider, which is the name of the album. That brought me to one of my very favorite guitar players. Like I said, you can go so many places with the Byrds. One of my very favorite guitar players who played on this album in that later incarnation of the Byrds, none other than Clarence White. Clarence White was such a gifted guitarist, and life tragically cut short. For those of you who do not know Clarence White's guitar playing, I highly recommend checking out later Byrds albums, later period Byrds albums. But Easy Rider, the Ballad of Easy Rider brought me to, of course, the classic Sweetheart of the Rodeo by the Byrds, the sort of pioneering country rock album. Clarence White was involved with the Byrds, as well as the guy who's largely responsible for the Byrds taking a full-blown dive into the country, Mr. Graham Parsons. Now, Graham Parsons, those of you who probably know, Graham was, kind of one of the forefathers of what became country rock, or as they called it. Graham was a Byrd. He also toured with Emmylou Harris, responsible for her career, and also Clarence White from the Byrds. It's funny, they weren't really in the Byrds together, but they both were Byrds at different times, but they later toured together, so there's the connection there. There's so many places you can go with the Byrds. You can probably do a whole Gimme 10 on just the Byrds alone. But Graham Parsons, this album, The Grievous Angel, featured a backing band that Graham had put together, and of course one of the guitar players of course, I don't know if you can read the credits there. Was Mr. James Burton. James Burton, fantastic guitar player. Again, you can relate it to so many people and places, but James played with just about everybody under the planet. But James played with Elvis Costello on this album, King of America. James is featured. James played with Ricky Nelson most famously. And another person that James was linked with, the other Elvis, Elvis Presley. James played on this album. He was part of Elvis's live band in the early 70s. This album recorded on stage in Memphis in 74. And so this, like I said, it's got a picture of Graceland on the cover. But James is just a phenomenal musician. Played with Elvis Costello, played with Elvis Presley, played with both Elvises, among others. Thought I'd take the time also to show you my autographed copy of this album that I had. It's framed. But there's James Burton's signature. He thought it'd be funny to write "to the Burtons" on here. James is a really nice guy. But also in that band who played on this album, a gentleman named Glenn D. Harden. Glenn D. Harden was a piano player and played with tons of people. I'm sure Headley, another fat bearded man talking about records, will tell you. But that's going to bring us to the next connection on our list. This is where it kind of gets funny, and I'm going really left field. Michael Nesmith. James and Glenn D. Harden played with Nez and the First National Band on the third album in their First National Band trilogy, if you want to call it that. Nevada Fighter is the name of this album, but this album does feature both Glenn D. and James, so they're connected there from Graham. So we kind of went through these guys to get to here, to Nezmuth. And so Nezmuth and the First National Band, one of his long time... Now, here's where we're going to take a little bit of a left turn in a detour, so follow me here, because I'm not bringing you back to Head just yet, as obvious as this would be to connect Michael Nesmith to the Monkees, of course, but I'm not going to play that easily. The First National Band and Michael Nesmith was closely linked to a pedal steel guitar player named O.J. Orville J. Red Rhodes, as he was known. He played pedal steel. I believe he played some pedal steel on Sweetheart of the Rodeo, even though he wasn't the primary guy. But I want to say he was one of the players on that. You guys can correct me down in the comments section. But Red was a very gifted steel guitar player, and he really, to me, was going back, and even later on, after initially appreciating these Nesmith albums, these solo albums, Red Rhodes is sort of the unsung hero with Nez on these albums. The pedal steel playing is absolutely phenomenal, and it's otherworldly. He is just he doesn't go where you think you're going to go. He's not a traditional pedal steel guy that you would think of in the truest sense, but he really was a great partner, musical partner, or a cosmic partner to Michael Nesmith and his music, and kind of was closely linked to most of Nez's solo career. And so Red Rhodes and Michael Nesmith were a sort of formidable musical duo. And anybody that's interested in country rock will tell you that I preach the virtues of Nez and those records. So this is where I go really left field with this, and I'm going to bring up Bert Jansch. I believe I'm pronouncing it correctly. Bert Jansch. I'm butchering this. Scottish folk singer. He did an album in the early 70s called L.A. Turnaround. Now, this album in particular was produced by Michael Nesmith, and Michael Nesmith actually produced a few albums, and I thought of different ways to get Nesmith back to Head without directly linking it, and this was the easiest way to go, was through Bert. This is a really fantastic album, but Bert, this album was recorded in LA with Nez, and there's a video somewhere on YouTube of them making this album. It's quite interesting. But Red Rhodes also plays on this album, so Nez brought Red along and just made a really, really fantastic album here, LA Turnaround. And I think you could still see, this was a Record Store Day release, but I think I've seen copies of this out there, even though it was supposed to be really rare and numbered. I've seen these out there. So Bert connects me to this artist, Neil Young. Now, Neil Young, obviously everybody knows who Uncle Neil is. Neil was a huge fan of Bert's. He actually, right before Bert passed away, Neil brought Bert along on tour as a guitar player. He just was a huge fan, very influential to Neil, and Neil repaid that debt by having Bert open for him. Probably made a few bucks on that last tour. But incidentally, and I don't have the album, believe it or not, even though it's on Third Man Records, but I am going to put a picture of it for you guys. But the album he did where he recorded in the Third Man booth, A Letter from Home, he recorded the song Needle of Death, which is a Bert Jansch song. And so he recorded that and did that. So Neil is connected to Bert. And so that brings us back to the soundtrack to Head. Neil Young plays guitar on one of the songs on Head as we go along, a beautiful ballad sung by Mickey Dolenz, and it's got a extremely nice, subtle lead electric guitar, and that is our buddy Uncle Neil playing lead guitar, connected back to Head. And so, and I believe it's a Carole King song, the As We Go Along. Definitely worth checking out. So that brings us, give me 10. I hope I think I grabbed 10. There's so many connections, and I kind of went all over the place. But I wanted to kind of get, I really wanted to get back to Head, but not through Michael Nesmith, and so that was kind of the way I wanted to do it, and bring it back to there. So either way, I hope maybe you learned something on the video, maybe some music to check out, some new music to go discover, and plus the Head soundtrack. Those of you who know, comment down below. Let me know what you think. Was it a stretch? Was I kind of bending the rules a little bit? I don't know. You can probably make 15 videos on just the birds alone and the connection, and give me 10 on that. So I'll leave that to you guys. I just wanted to get to Head without using directly Michael Nesmith. So anyway, thanks for watching. Comment down below. Ring the little bell. They'll get notifications. Please subscribe if you haven't done so already. It doesn't cost you anything, and I appreciate everyone that takes time to hit the subscribe button. And I try to interact with you guys when you do comment, so let me know what you think. And thanks again for watching. Save the Texas Prairie Chicken. Goodbye.